Yeah, 100%. You have to have a vision and you have to have an idea of where you're going. But you 100%, like you need adaptability, you need flexibility.
Mm.
If you're not flexible, you break. And whatever you're doing breaks, right? Because there's always issues. Like the reason I make money is because I solve problems that other people aren't willing to solve. That's it. So there's always going to be issues. So you've got to be flexible enough to when you see an issue, go, okay, can I see a way around this? Can I see a way through this? If I can't come up with a solution, are there other people I can talk to that can help me with this problem? You know what I mean? Like that's what it's about. It's not about crashing through things and just going like it's my way or the highway. You're going to hit a wall real quick.
I love how you say that. There's always a problem somewhere that you can fix that someone else isn't prepared to fix, and people will want to have the solution and pay for it. And so that's what you offer out there. How does that apply, for example, in your property development? The reason why I'm asking that question now, and it wasn't prepared, it's like you said, it's flexible here as we're having a chat with each other. The reason I ask is that I recently noticed how much demand there is for property. The market is overheated. A lot of people are missing out. And I noticed that especially in the type of investments that we have, is that there's a big demand for 2-bedroom type of units for, let's say, lower income people, but still quality tenants potentially. How do you guys make your decision-making on what type of property to develop? Because typically there's always a backlog between what you actually constructed and hand over and where the demand is at the time in the market.
Yeah, so that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about making decisions for short term as opposed to long term, right? So with a property development, I probably won't see the money that I put in for 2 to 3 years. So the decisions you make, you want to be purchasing for the right reasons and the right properties early on and have a little bit of vision. So for instance, like back in 2015, I was building rooming houses. So that's basically units, essentially. Like they've got their own lock to their own door. They've got their own little self-contained apartment, if you will, but it's still classified as a house. So we were building those for that exact reason. We could see that there was a demand for fully furnished, all paid for sort of properties. Like all they've got to do is, pay the rent and that's it. Like it's all inclusive, electricity, the whole lot. We got a lot of interstate travelers. We got a lot of single parents, like that was something that we could see. I was like, wow, like there's a hole in the market here. And the returns on that.
Victoria, right? Victoria.
That was Queensland, that one, actually.
Okay.
We started in Queensland. But yeah, so back to your comment, look, you can do a little bit of research and sort of, chat to agents. You can see what's happening in the market. But I think it's probably important to not like venture. I know the rooming house was venturing a little bit further afield, but if you're picking properties that aren't too extravagantly expensive and that aren't too ridiculously cheap, and you're opening yourself up to a wider market, like what do people want? Like what's happening? What are people my age or younger doing right now? Like, am I going for new homeowners? Am I going for downsizers? What's the demand for at the moment in the market? What's the demand for being recently? What do you think it's going to be in the future? I just say look at all those things and then make a estimation yourself, run the numbers, see if it works, go for it.
And you guys specifically at Lagrou, what are you guys pursuing right now? Because I've seen some beautiful imagery and artistic renderings and stuff. So what are you guys now building?
Yeah, so Lagrou's just my project management company. It's pretty much a shell company. But Bonaventure Group is the actual partnership between myself and Shay.
Okay.
But yeah, so that render you saw was of one of the projects we're just about to build in Melbourne. All the projects that we have currently are in Melbourne. I'm looking at sites in Adelaide. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
Okay. And what sort of properties are you guys bringing to market?
So in Melbourne, Shay's cup of tea, he likes mixed use development sites. So You get big boys that do like high-rise buildings, and then you get your mum and dad investors that do like splitters. They might do 1 into 2, 1 into 4, just normal sort of townhouse stuff. And we sit in the middle, right? So we're too big for your mum and dad investors to do these projects because they're multi-million-dollar sites. Once they're complete, most of them require around $1 million in capital. So it sort of knocks a few people out of the market. And the big boys just don't want to fuss with it because it doesn't have the margins in there for them. So we're sneaking in there. When I say mixed use, it's normally commercial at the front with maybe units on top, and then you might have townhouses at the back. But every site's different. So some of the sites are just townhouses. Other sites are a mix of all three. But that's the general gist of what we're trying to do. I'd like to do, I don't know if you've seen the building I'm in here, on George Street, Parkside, but I want to build something like this around 10 stories or so in Adelaide. We'll see how it goes. It's funny, like sometimes it's easier to go bigger, right? So this is a misconception that people have. Like for me, it's harder for me to buy my own home to live in than get a $4.5 million loan.
How is that?
So just to sidetrack onto some finance. I don't give financial advice, by the way. I'm not a financial advisor.
Me neither.
talk to your broker and your lawyer. So with commercial lending, it's a little bit more flexible because they look at the project itself, right? And they lend against the project, not your serviceability. Like there's no way you can service like a 4.5 plus or anything over like $2 million in loans. You're getting into a commercial lend, and normally the interest is capitalized. You've got to basically have a business meeting with these banks, right? And we don't normally use major lenders. I think the biggest lender we'll use is Latrobe. Sometimes we'll use one of the big banks for an initial purchase, but the construction loan's always with a private equity firm, right? So these private equity firms are basically a bunch of people who have got together and want to make easy money. Like normally they're accountant firms or legal firms that have a heap of clients that are high net worths. They pull their funds together, blah, blah, blah. They charge you for it. It's a bit more expensive. But if the project works, you get the money, then who cares?
You factor it into costs.
You factor it in, right? And it's sometimes easier to find larger sums of money than small sums of money. People, if you're looking for small sums of money, then you're not going to be in cahoots with, high net worths. You're going to be looking at mum and dad investors, right? Whereas, if you're looking at a high net worth, they might just come up with all the capital you need for the project and go, yeah, all right, no worries, I'll JV with you, done. Here's 10 mil.